How's it going?
Hello, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Okay, so we just met recently through a friend of ours, Shannon, who brought you to these events. She was in our first event. And I'm grateful to get to know you because you have such interesting work and subject matter in your pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a lot of your stuff is sort of socially and politically driven, would
hmm
you say? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. Just kind of like from observation, either just in day-to-day life and then also, yeah, just kind of the wider context of what's going on kind of around the country and around the world as well. So,
Yeah, and it's really valuable to have that perspective on things, and that's kind of one of the things that we give our communities as artists is that perception of sort of the reflection of also of how we see what's going on. I think there was like a John Lennon quote that was something to that effect that it was like we are like a transparent eyeball and we reflect back what we see in the world.
oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah. So your work is it's such an interesting style, and there are influences that have brought you to your style over the years.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk about some of the other artists that have influenced you in your work?
Yeah, so I'd say from a really young age, the painter N.C. Wyeth, who he painted a lot of children's book illustrations. They're like full on, like oil paintings, but he did, I think he did advertisements and he did a lot of like children's book illustrations too. But there are a lot of kind of like fantasy, I guess, but then also like a lot of like pirates and soldiers and knights and things like that from a young age when I started drawing. His stuff really kind of influenced me. My parents got me a book of his where he illustrated Treasure Island, and there were all these paintings that he did of pirates and stuff, and so that kind of like got me onto him. And then also, I would say some of the old political cartoonists
Mhm.
from around like the early 1900s as well. I think that's kind of a subconscious influence. Like I've
Mhm.
seen the cartoons, a lot just like in history class in high school and stuff like that. They have samples of political cartoons. I think it's more of like a subconscious influence, but that I think influenced me as well. And then also even I think just the work, like more recent work of um, um, Mike Judge,
Mhm.
who Beavis and Butthead and
Yes.
King of the Hill,
Yes.
especially with the backgrounds of my
Yeah. And the
and one of the
color
ones that we're
influence.
gonna see is kind of like you can I think kind of probably see the influence of that a lot more in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will kind of bring those up again when we're seeing those particular influences in the pieces that we're looking
Yeah.
at. So your stuff is sort of multimedia, but they're illustrations, but they incorporate like watercolor you were telling me about for like establishing the gray in the background, and then you were saying that you layer in like colored pencil and
Yeah.
also ink.
Yeah. So it's the way it typically goes kind of like evolved over time, but the way it's been now for probably the last year or so is I'll do just a regular graphite pencil drawing, just using like a
Mhm.
number two pencil, and that's to do just like the sketch, and then I
Oh,
go
yeah, to
over it with
establish.
pen
Yeah.
and then erase the pencil underneath, and then I do a watercolor wash over the whole thing. Or I might leave certain things white because I want it to stand out more. But I've been doing mostly like gray washes in the back because it kind of dulls, especially for the backgrounds. It kind of dulls the colored pencil a little bit so that whatever's supposed to be in the foreground stands out a lot more.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and you're getting really rich colors out of colored pencil, which is like for most of us who have worked with colored pencil at some point, maybe in elementary school or something like that, we're not used to the quality of it being so rich and like so. So do you have a specific brand that you use when you draw that is
yeah.
particularly good?
Yeah, so I use Prismacolors and they're
Oh,
very
okay.
soft. Um,
Yeah,
and I press really hard when
press
I
really hard.
yeah, so like
Yeah.
it kind of um yeah, so I think that probably is one of the ways. Like I don't really go like lightly over it. If I want a
Right.
lighter color, I'll use a lighter color. Like I won't try to do like a lighter sort of.
Oh, okay. So
I
you
just
make sure that
really
it's
hard.
like, it's like heavy use of the material. So, okay. So then let me ask you, like, how often do you have to sharpen your pencils while you're working? Is it like constant?
Yeah, it's pretty much like constant.
Yeah.
And I do have an electric pencil sharpener, but because I have to sharpen so often, it just kind of like gets me out of, you know, like being in my world while I'm drawing.
Well,
Having
you don't like that sound? The like, like
so I
not a feeling?
do it with like just the little hand sharpeners.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm constantly sharpening pencils, and I even like I have some little nubs here, but like
Yeah, let me see the nubs. Oh my God. Those are so much nubbier than I thought they were gonna be.
yeah, well,
That's
I have this,
pencil.
I have these pencil extenders.
Ah, okay, okay.
So you can like when it starts to get like uncomfortable to use, you can put it into the pencil extender, and then
Okay, that's like the roach clip of the art world, right?
Yeah, exactly. I have to figure out what to do with these little nubs.
Oh my God.
I don't have tons of them, but I have, you know, they're just ever increasing. So
They're
those
so
are probably the
adorable.
most nubby of the
I feel
pencils.
like you should start a collection. Like, I could see that like a row of them on a shelf or something, like a little, yeah.
Maybe
That's
separating them by color so that they kind of like create some kind of effect, like in a jar or something.
right. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this the other night and planning this session. And when you said you had nubs, I was thinking like, you know, like a 2 to 3 inch. I wouldn't realize they were like these little teeny. That is so fun. But okay, so would you say that you get down to a nub like that on a pencil in like a one piece, or like how many pieces does that?
No, that would be over a few pieces.
Okay, a few pieces. All right, that seems a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
Not that
But
we need to get
since I started doing the watercolor washes, like I used to try to color like the whole, you know, background using a colored pencil, but it just got so like tedious, and you
oh yeah, and like your hand must ache.
Yeah, so
right?
like then I started doing the watercolor wash. So I like the way it looks better, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny what influences like style, a person's style when they're an artist. It's like there's like form and function, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, so the watercolor, yeah, definitely like meets both of those, but I think I wouldn't have thought of wanting to do watercolor if it wasn't for just the practical need of needing a quicker way to do it and a way that wasn't you know, running down all of my pencils so quickly.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we were going to talk about a couple of your pieces, including Uncle Sam's Nephew Miles, which was the giveaway piece. And there's, we were going to talk about kind of how your concept developed and the process for that. Did you have a screen share you wanted to show us?
Yeah, I can share that here. Yes, I do.
Sorry, no worries. You can take your time. I see you have a private technician helping.
Yeah.
So maybe I can assist too. The screen share button at the bottom, and then when you pull it up, are you seeing different screens?
Yeah, and so I'm pressing desktop. There's an exclamation point, and it's saying like open system preferences.
Do you already have the file open in like preview, for instance? Or in if you open up the file first, then when the application's open, you should see the application as its own window.
So, yeah.
Close that and then try it.
Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Where's there it is. Okay. Okay. I don't know.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're just having a couple of technical difficulties, but we'll figure it out.
I don't know. Maybe I can just hold it up.
Yes, hold up the sketchbook. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the files that you sent me on my end so that we can see the paintings up close. So let me just go ahead and open that up for you. So this is, all right. Can you guys see that? Are you seeing Miles?
Oh, beautiful.
There we go.
Okay, great.
Okay, this is your screenshot.
This is my desktop. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Right.
so this is the piece. And then I know you had some sketchbook stuff you wanted to share us, and I can stop the screen share so you can show us those as well. So you want to tell us a little bit about how
you're on a photo. They're on photos on my desktop.
Oh, you don't actually have the sketchbook?
No.
Okay, well, let's skip it. Let's just do the piece and we'll talk about how this piece evolved. So there is some influence in this from Norman Rockwell, I think is what you were telling me, right?
Yeah, so Norman Rockwell and J.C. Leyendecker both, they're sort of advertisements and, fronts of magazines and stuff. They always had this like very particular way of drawing kids, well, people in general, but also kids. J.C. Leyendecker had a whole series of kids eating cereal, and I think they were advertisements for Kellogg's or something like that. But anyway, so I was kind of wanting to practice just like drawing kids because their faces look very different from, their features are very different from adult faces, and I always draw adults. And so I was doing these, just all of these different drawings of kids' heads and faces in my sketchbooks. And they were all of this like, like I'm sure most people are familiar with like Norman Rockwell's paintings, but
oh yes, I'm sure.
They always, the kids have very big eyes and kind of small noses and big foreheads and stuff. Very kind of like exaggerated features. And so I have, like in my sketchbooks, I have all these, drawings of kids. And this piece started in one of my sketchbooks. This was one of the kids I started drawing. And then I just like kept adding to it. And then it kind of evolved into this kid. But the thing behind it, the idea for the piece, the theme behind the piece kind of developed as I was drawing it.
Right. Yeah. So it's very like organic almost. It's just like you drew on this inspiration and then you created it. And I see that there's references to like contemporary, like sort of parking lots, like suburban terrain. And then we also have colonial influences in this as well.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those things that just came kind of out of your brain without a lot of pre-planning.
Yeah, not a whole lot of pre-planning on this one. And a lot of these themes, well, the shopping center theme was a thing before I started this one. I already did a couple more pieces with, with the featuring the shopping centers. But basically, my thinking is that it's kind of the result of all of this colonization and westward expansion and all of this is basically the creation of the suburbs, because it covers, suburbs and parking lots cover a pretty large swath of the continent.
Yes.
And I think I heard somewhere that if you combined all the parking lots in the country together, it would be the size of West Virginia, like the entire state of West Virginia.
Oh my God, that's a statistic.
Yeah, and there was something like 53% of people in the United States regard the places where they live as suburban. So it's a large swath of the country, lives in these types of environments, and it's sort of like the end result of all of this really brutal history is the creation of this kind of, in my opinion, kind of bland sort of types of urban environment or suburban environments that we live in.
Yeah, it like makes it all that much more wrong, it feels like.
Yeah, it's so yeah, that's kind of what it's taken from. And the sort of the part about the kid being featured in it is that I think in this country we kind of regard ourselves as always being like the sort of underdog and innocent. And there's this kind of like innocence. We like to pretend that, when America was innocent, there's this kind of myth, but it's never been innocent from the very beginning. No. And so there's the kid who's that quintessential sort of like classic American Norman Rockwell, neighborhood kid, but he's got this like really dark, monster behind him. And he's dressed in those colonial clothes from that period, you know, like 1600s kind of types of clothes. And I have the map in the back is supposed to be like an old, kind of like an old, you know, map of North America. I have the sort of features that they would have included in the maps.
Right. Yeah, the like compass rose and
Yeah.
the sea creature. I love the sea creature. That's
Yeah.
such a fun detail.
Um,
Awesome. So this kind of contrasts with another piece that we were going to share where you put a little bit more like planning into it. So I'm going to stop doing the screen share. And
I think I might be able to, we might have gotten it fixed.
You got it? Okay, cool. Absolutely. So the other piece, I'll just kind of introduce it while you're doing that, is called Sprawl. And it definitely has some of the same suburban vibes in it, and some of the same suburban themes and the parking lot themes that have to do with it. So, and then you were saying basically with this piece though, is that you had an idea in mind going into it and we're kind of like laying out yeah, you were laying out the composition.
So it's kind of I was trying to figure out how to draw this sort of repetitive suburban landscape in a more efficient kind of way. I don't know if you can see that at all.
Yes, we can see it.
This is what I was going to bring up before, showing the sketchbooks full of all the kids for the last piece. And even this guy over here to the right, he was kind of an early evolution of sort of like halo thing.
Yeah, you definitely see aspects of the composition from that piece.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, for Sprawl, so I had, here's some sketchbook stuff from the sort of evolution of that piece. The one on the left really is more representative of the sketchbook process for developing that.
It's like these rolling hills.
Yeah, so at first the idea was having, because I had kind of featured this type of landscape in a couple of other pieces, but it wasn't as like pronounced, or wasn't as there wasn't a system behind it. So I wanted to do a piece that was just the landscape, that was just the background. And at first I wanted to have these hills that were kind of like behind each other, that were sort of overlapping,
right, like the crisscrossing, like
and then you would just get the sort of notion that it was never ending, that it was just continuing, like subdivision, parking lot, subdivision, parking lot. And so I started doing it, but as you can kind of see there, I wanted them to alternate, but when I was trying to alternate them, I was seeing that the houses were going to be concentrated on the left side and the parking lots would be on the right side.
Oh, right.
And if you try to do it where, you know, back and forth, then you're going to have, you know, 2 hills in a row with houses and then 2 hills with, so it kind of, I started to try to break it up with the roads. And so that's when it started. It's weird because when I added the roads, it made the landscape seem flat. When I started putting the roads in there, zigzagging through the piece.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Flat. So, and part of that kind of developed on the actual piece itself too.
Can we see the piece?
Kind of see there how the houses, my process for drawing out the houses.
Oh yeah, tell us about that real quick. The way that you do. So it's like you map them all out at once and they're all like kind of shoebox style little houses, right?
Yeah. And at first, especially actually on the earlier piece, I was doing the houses in a different way. They were more kind of like individual and they had gables and, you know, like different features.
Right.
But then I started thinking, you know, of trying to make more of them quicker. And again, this is kind of that form and function type thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like I was trying to do it quicker, but also it like changed the sort of pattern, and then it just became this pattern that shows up in a lot of my stuff. But and they're just single like room little houses. There's not really a whole lot of feature, but you get the idea.
Right.
They're houses that are pretty much all made the same by the same people generally.
Do you have the piece that we could see? Because I think that would be really helpful for seeing like when you're talking about the flatness and then the
there's the actual, that's me.
Oh, there you are. There's the process. Okay. And look at all those little nubs.
And then, yeah, so
Oh,
that's,
okay, yes. So
if I could, let me do
the full screen. I think it's, well, not play from start. Play from current slide. It is here right under insert. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the piece itself. And I kind of have these little names for the, in this one, I was kind of playing around with the idea, and I started doing it in my other drawings too, where in the backgrounds, there's little names of the different stores and the developments and stuff. So
fun.
yeah, so I just have like,
What's the one that's like in the left middle here, the first one you can see a sign on? What's that guy say?
Oh, with a little cross out. It's like a little pedestrian, and he's crossed out. Like, you can't walk here.
Okay. And then on the building there, the like it looks like CVS or a Walmart or something.
Yeah, it says Crap Emporium. I have that in a couple. I have that in a couple of different pieces too. Like in the background, you'll see like a little Crap Emporium.
Okay. To go get your crap. It's here at the Crap Emporium.
And then Whimpering Woods is the name of this little subdivision here.
Oh, nice.
And then I started doing I started putting these little flailing arm guys.
Oh, from like a used car lot or something.
Yeah, and there's actually one of them in the previous piece too. There's a tiny little one that's like,
oh, how funny.
There. And then with this one too, I originally, like with the original piece, I wanted them to continue on just forever throughout the piece. But towards the end, I started, I put in that freeway in the back, but then I included, because I thought it would be good to have a horizon, but I wanted you to continue to get the impression that that it's continuing, the sprawl is continuing. And so it's a little construction site back there. So they're little like backhoes and, that are working on continuing to expand out. But you can see how it turned from being originally, the intention was to make them like hills.
Like hills, yeah.
But then it kind of, when I added the roads, it kind of started to turn them into more of a flat landscape.
I think it works better though, because like hills is very like country-esque, and then having this like, it's like they bulldozed all the hills and then put in this suburban sprawl instead. Yeah.
Something more bleak about the flat sort of landscape than about something with, with hills that kind of roll. It kind of does more for the eye when you see, different changes in elevation, but when it's just nothing but flat, it kind of makes it a little bit more bleak, less interesting, I guess.
Absolutely. It definitely communicates the like a message of the piece. So let's move on to our last one, Hell or High Water, which is arguably my favorite of this particular collection, because it's so like relatable right now. There's so much going on with this that is like so current for like our experiences. So can you kind of tell us like, what started this piece? Like when were you like, I gotta make this?
So actually it was after hearing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She had this, I think it was like I don't know, maybe 20-minute long like address kind of that she posted on social media. And just saying that like between now and the election, like we all have to like mobilize, utilize your talents, whatever talent you have, to like, get other people to vote, raise awareness about, voting and getting out there and making sure that your voice is heard. And so, and she mentioned specifically artists as well. She mentioned like artists definitely have something to contribute. So then I thought, well, I should create a, like a get out the vote poster and post it, just to like post it on social media, and then have people feel free to be able to post it to their own networks and stuff too.
Absolutely.
And the concept comes from all of the issues with the proposed changes to the USPS, and how a lot of elections experts were saying like this is gonna like really make it a lot harder for vote by mail, especially during the pandemic, to happen, and for people to get their votes in on time. And so there's this kind of like sense of urgency around the USPS. Yeah, that's why I wanted to have feature a USPS truck in
Yes.
there.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of controversial stuff going on. Well, I mean, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but basically they've been sort of trying to defund the USPS, and it's very important for the election process this time around.
Yeah.
I also love that this has references to COVID. Everybody's wearing a mask in this, and they're all outside breezing along. There's plenty of airflow as this vehicle's moving by. But then there's also the forest fires and the floods that we're seeing on the different coasts.
Yeah. So on the right side of the picture, you can see, and I did it as as like when you look at a map, you'll see, usually, if it's a north, south, east, west kind of, you'll see the east is always on the right and the west is, on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So in the picture, I kind of wanted to lay it out in that way. So you kind of think of it that way. But the floods mainly going on in the east and the south, and then, the fires happening in the western United States. So representing climate change and the growing urgency around that every year that we don't address it. So I wanted to put that in there. And then also a reference to the Black Lives Matter movement and what was happening over the summer, and it's continuing to happen now, as well as just holding police and law enforcement accountable. So I have the guy holding the flag there, having him very kind of front and center at the top of the truck. And so it's kind of hitting on a number of different issues.
Yes.
In this.
Yeah, it's like a 2020 like impact poster all together, all these different references, and the voting. Yeah. So you have prints of this up in your shop, and you're contributing a portion of the proceeds to
all of the proceeds.
All the proceeds to a specific cause. You want to tell us a little bit about that cause?
Yeah, so as I'm sure like most of you know, like after the November 3rd election in Georgia, there's the runoff election that's coming up, the race for the Senate. Both Senate seats in Georgia are up for, they're both going to a runoff. And so it determines basically who gets majority in the Senate, which is crucial to, our newly, Democratic president being able to get anything done, including getting cabinet positions filled, to have that majority in the Senate. So if these two Senate seats in Georgia are won by the two Democratic candidates, John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock, then it would make it a 50-50 split in the Senate, and then Kamala Harris as the vice president would get the tie-breaking vote on it. So it would be, that
would be really beneficial for the things that we want to do as far as progress goes in this country, and sort of undoing.
So I was thinking of, I want to contribute money to that, at least until January 5th when the runoff is, to get the vote out, to help register people to vote and get people out voting in Georgia. So I wanted to contribute to that. And then specifically, I was thinking, I don't want to just contribute to the Democratic National Convention. I want to target it more specifically to Georgia and what's happening there. So there's an organization that Stacey Abrams started in Georgia called Fair Fight. And it really started after the 2018 elections. There was large-scale voter disenfranchisement, purging people off of the voter rolls in Georgia. And so Fair Fight was formed to, stage legal battles against the state of Georgia in order to overturn some of these laws that were making it more difficult for people, and especially people of color, to be able to vote in Georgia. And one of the reasons why Joe Biden won there is because of the efforts of Stacey Abrams and that organization, and many others as well. So I'm going to be donating all proceeds from selling this piece to that organization to help win those two Senate seats, and also to contribute to the legal battles that the organization is fighting for.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. That's really great. We appreciate that as in terms of righting wrongs and justice and being able to vote, encouraging all those things. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. So each of the pieces that Gavin has shared with us today are all available up in his shop, which you can access through our webpage. We will give you the link again at the end, but it's also up at the very top of the chat. You can find it there. Thank you so much for joining us, Gavin. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everybody for
hanging in.
Technical difficulties.
These things happen. It's Zoom, you know, we got through it. It's great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. For more videos like this, go to the link here. And to support us, you can join the Patreon by going to the link below.